Hello, this is Victor. I'm here with a new Hammer video. It's been a long time that I don't do this type of analysis, but I think now it's time to start again. I will start with the Dark Eldar, or restart with the Dark Eldar, and I will do first the troops. If you want to know more details about the Hammer and what is the calculations that I'm doing, I put the link below to the video where I explain what the tool is based and what is the aim of this tool. Just here very briefly, this tool is a way to compare different units and to know where these units excel and what are the best configurations and what are the flexibilities and drawbacks of each unit. It's just a mathematical calculation. Just you need also the experience and to understand a little bit more about the unit to open the ace. It's just another guidance, and don't take this as the only guidance that you can use. So this can be combined with other knowledge. But I think it's interesting always to know what are the maths, to know how strong is the unit, and then it gives just some points in different fields to compare to other units and to see how these units are good and where these units are good. So if you want to know more details, please click in the link below where I explain how this tool is working. So first, let's look what type of units I'm going to review here and under what conditions. So these are the list of the units that I will review in that video. So I'm going to review 10 Cavalry Warriors with 1 Dark Lance, 5 Cavalry Warriors with Blaster, 10 Cavalry Warriors with Splinter Cannon, 6 Trueborn with 4 Blasters, 8 Trueborns with Shredders and Splinter Cannons, 5 Trueborn with 2 Lances, 5 Trueborn with 2 Splitter Cannons, 10 Witches with Idvesh Red, 10 with Razor Fails, 10 Witches with 3 Impalers, all with Agonizers, and then I will compare them to the Blood Brides. In the case I will only use one of the weapons options with Agonizer. So the first part, I will compare different Cavalry Warrior configurations, including the Trueborn, to see how they are in shooting. These units are mainly focused on shooting. And then I will see if the witches that are more focused in close combat are worth to pay for them or not, for the close combat options. And I will check if there is any of the 3 weapons that are better than others in close combat. So which is the best configuration, if it's the Idvesh Red, the Razor Flails, or the Impalers. Each one have rerolls on different points. So if you want to know more details about how these weapons are working, please check in the book of the Dark Eldar. Here you have the points. I have to say that normally the index I give is normalized to be able to compare units with different points cost. I will also, in that you will see that I will compare also this Dark Eldar to other units that I analyzed before through the tool, and mainly are going to be Chaos and Grey Knights units, because are the ones that I analyzed first in through this tool. So and then I will analyze them and will compare them with other codex. So these are the units that will be on the review. I hope you find them interesting. Maybe one of these configurations are very weird for you. It's just because I want to see how these weapons work, and it's a way to be able, if the weapons are adding something or they are not adding anything to the unit. So the first thing that we analyze is what is the efficiency in shooting light infantry. If we look first between the different options in the Dark Eldar, we see that of course the witches are going to be there, just because I like to put the unit through all the different fields. But witches will not do anything in shooting, and the shooting will be very limited. They only have a splinter pistol, so the efficiency in shooting is going to be very, very poor. As you can see, the score is very low. But if we look now, if we don't focus on the Cavalry Warriors, we see that the best options shooting and the ones that have the best scoring at short range are the options with the Trueborn with the Splinter Cannons and Shredders for the Trueborn, and the option with the Splinter Cannon and 10 Cavalry Warriors with Splinter Cannon for the Cavalry Warriors. Even moving, and they are stronger than other options. We see that the worst option to shoot infantry, light infantry, is the option with the 4 blasters, what is one of the most common options today, or of having one of the most common options for 2-born, is not the most efficient when shooting to light infantry. The same is occurring with the 2-born with 2 Dark Lances. Of course, these 2 units are more specialized in shooting vehicles, so then we'll see later on if when shooting vehicles they are much stronger and how strong they are compared to other codex. So here and then below, if we compare to other codex, and it's mainly comparing to Chaos Space Marines and Grey Knights, we see that at short range, Dark Eldar is stronger, and only the cultists with Flamer are comparable to them. And medium range, we see that the Purgation with 4 sea cannons are more efficient, but we see that the Cavalry Warriors with Splinter Cannon and the 2-born with Splinter Cannons are not far from the efficiency of the Purgation squads. So quite strong when shooting light infantry. A very similar picture when we look at shooting to heavy infantry. Splinter cannons and shredders are still the most efficient way to cause wounds to heavy infantry. Here in the field of heavy infantry, we have Space Marines, we have Terminators, we have bikes. So normally we have infantry with toughness 4 or 5 with armor save of 3 and 2, what is quite and the most common is Space Marines, but I also include, so if you look the tool you will see exactly which type of units are included in that option. We see that at short range Dark Eldar is very strong even against heavy infantry. At medium range, that is what I call from 12 to 24, they are not far from a Purgation squad that is a specialized unit in shooting. So we can see that Dark Eldar is quite good also at shooting heavy infantry. But where Dark Eldar is excel and where what is the best of them is that all these poison weapons are very, very strong and giving a very strong punch against monstrous creatures. And here is what we see in that slide. So you can see that the options with the splinter cannons are the strongest ones. Here the shredders are not good because the strength is not good enough against high toughness. We see that the blasters are getting closer, but still splinter cannons is the best weapon when shooting monstrous creatures, and we see that the options that have splinter cannons are the strongest. The 5-1 with 2 splinter cannons are very good. The 10 Cavalry Warriors with all these splinter guns plus the splinter cannon is also quite a strong option. Blasters still being the lowest scoring one in that point because the quantity of poisoning weapons is very low, and at short range when you can do rapid fire they are the most strongest units that you can find against monstrous creatures. And you can see that even when you compare to units that have a strong shooting like the Purgation squad, like the Dread Knight with the silencer or the heavy sea cannon, they are much stronger than them. At medium range, we still see that Dark Eldar with splinter cannons are stronger than the Purgation squad. So Dark Eldar very strong against monstrous creatures, and it is reflected when they fight against Tyranids. Tyranids have a hard moment to play because if Dark Eldar is specialized in something is in the poisonic weapons, and they don't care about high toughness. The situation is very similar when we talk about flying monstrous creatures. The efficiency is going down because they need or they don't have the same, they cannot score the same number of wounds, that is more difficult to hit them. But because the poisonic weapons and almost all the basic weapons of the Dark Eldar have the poison special rule, so they can also drive some wounds to monstrous creatures. So very similar to what happens to the monstrous creatures, and they are stronger than units specialized in shooting. And now we go to the light vehicles, and here we can see that is why Dark Eldar sometimes is struggling in destroying vehicles. This one is light vehicles, is vehicles of armor 10, 11, and 12, what they call light vehicles. You can see that even the 6 Trubones with blasters are not as efficient as other units, like the 4 Sea Cannons of the Purgation Squad. So the 4 Sea Cannons of Purgation Squad can destroy light vehicles very easily and drive a lot of hull points. The Trueborn are not that good and have half of the efficiency at short range and much lower efficiency at medium range. We have I have to explain here that as the blaster have range 10 to 18, I consider half of the efficiency when it's 12 to 24 because it can only be used on half of this range. So this is why you see that the points are going down there. The two Bombus 2 Lancers are not a bad option. If you invest 100 points on this type of configuration, so this is going to be 90, so you almost have guarantee that you will remove 1 hull point per turn of shooting. But if you see the same, for 100 points of Purgation with Sea Cannons, you have guaranteed 3.5 hull points. Yeah, against light vehicles, Dark Eldar have not a lot of weapons that can deal with that easily, because all the basic weapons cannot damage any type of armor. So they are very good. Dark Eldar is very good against monstrous creatures. They have more problems when we talk about vehicles. And when we talk about heavy vehicles, yeah, here the only options that you can have to damage heavy vehicles are dark lenses and blasters are the only ones that can do some damage. Here they are not that far from the other units that I'm analyzing, because the other units have to also to do a hull point against have to penetrate armor or lance armor 13 or 14. That is what I consider heavy vehicles. But yeah, here all the armies are struggling to damage this type of vehicles, but Dark Eldar is not doing much better. So they also have difficulties there, and they are at the same level of a Purgation Squad with Sea Cannons. So here I have to say that I don't analyze yet and Devastate of Space Marines with Last Cannons or the full Melta unit that will drive better points than these ones. So Dark Eldar, yeah, they need to invest points if they to deal with vehicles. And against flying vehicles or against shooting flyers, very similar picture of what we have seen on light vehicles. It's a very similar situation. All the scoring is going down because it's more difficult to hit. But again, they will have a lot of difficulties, these units, to drive any hull or to create a damage to any flying vehicle. If we look at shooting total is the average of all the previous checks that we did. So here I'm averaging how all this shooting, so it's the average score of all the different fields that we have go through up to now. We see that the options with the splinter cannons are the ones that have the highest score. What is this reason is because they are much flexible and they can be efficient against more different targets. We see that the blasters are the ones that are scoring the lowest score of all the options we analyze. Here we have to be careful. The blasters have the lowest scoring because they are only good against vehicles. Against any other option, all the other weapons are much better. And if we see that the units with 2 Dark Lancers and the splinter guns have better score than blasters. This also means that maybe 4 blasters is to overkill and is killing the flexibility of the unit, and maybe you have to put some more splinter guns. So this is up to you, and also depend a lot on how the rest of your army is equipped. What I want to say is the blasters that are very popular are not having the best score in shooting because they are super specialized to vehicles. If we compare, the good point here, if we compare to other codex or the other units that I was comparing, only the Purgation from the Grey Knights have higher score than the Cavalry Warriors. All the others are in parity with the lowest score of, that is, the ones with blasters. So if we compare 6 to 1 with 4 blasters, they have the same score as 10 Chaos Space Marines with 2 plasma guns. Remember that this is normalized to the same to be able to compare, to have a fair comparison. So Dark Eldar, the Cavalry options, the Cavalry Warrior options, the True Ball and the Cavalry Warriors, very strong in shooting if we compare to other troops like Chaos Space Marines, like the Strike Squad, like the Cultists. They have much better score in shooting per point, so I mean that they are more efficient in shooting. And the more flexible ones are the ones equipped with splinter cannons, because they can deal with all type of infantry. Even though in your army you will need some anti-vehicle shooting. The 4 blasters can be an option. Later on I will compare these 4 blasters unit with also the Scourges with the Highware Blaster or with the Hill Lance, to see if there are options that are more efficient against vehicles than the blasters. So that's all for the shooting, and now we are going to pass to the other points of this comparison. The next thing that I like to check is the resistance of the unit, and here I had to duplicate all the units because I wanted to know what is the resistance before and after having the Feel No Pain, as the Feel No Pain is guaranteed after turn 3. So I wanted to know how this is changing the stats, and what is expecting is that the stats are almost changing when we compare the resistance against common weapons and against some of the anti-infantry weapons. And here what we can see very easily the score. If we look, for example, the first unit, 10 Cavalry Warriors with Dark, they pass from a score of 16.7 to 25. So it's improving quite good in the case of against common weapons. But then if we start looking at the special weapons, anti-infantry weapons, and the anti-tank, in the anti-tank the Feel No Pain have not any impact. But we see against anti-infantry and against the special weapons, the impact is also very limited, because they have toughness 3, so most of the weapons will instant kill them, means that you don't have Feel No Pain. If we want to see what are the most resilient units, the more resilient units are the ones with the 10 warriors with a splinter cannon. Here that have the 26, and we see that the Trueborn have a very poor score. And here what I want to show you again, the unit with blasters is the one having the lowest score. Why? Because we have a lot of points on 5 Cavalry Warriors, so they are very easy to kill. Meaning, they are as easy to kill as any other warrior. Doesn't matter if they have blasters, because you have invest more points means that the resistance is lower. Here is why the good of normalizing. You can see that you lose a lot of points, and then the resistance of True Blown with blasters is 3 times less than the Cavalry Warriors. So what that means that when you are using elite troops, you have to be careful how much point you invest on these elite troops, because they are as easy as to kill as any other troops that you have. So True Born is as easy to kill as a Cavalry Warrior. If you are investing a lot of points of equipment, you have to be careful, because you start losing points much faster. So, and this is what this table is showing you. When the resistance is dropping, means that you are investing a lot of points, but they are very easy. They have a good alpha strike, but at the same time they are when they are killed, you are losing a lot of points. The same example is happening with the Blood Brides. We can see that they are weaker, but the drop is not as big, so it's not that bad what you're losing between Witches and the Blood Brides. If we compare between the 10 witches with Hydra, and it's 10.2, and then the 10 brides is 8.5, so you're losing about 20% on resistance. Okay, means that you are losing more points when you are losing this. We also have to say that the witches have have less resistance than any of the cavalry options except the blasters. And here I wanted to compare the resistance of the Dark Eldar to other codexes. So you see at the top the other codexes against common weapons. I will say that the Grey Knights and the Chaos Space Marines have much better resistance or have a stronger resistance than especially the Trueborn and the Witches. So you see the Witches and the Trueborn against common weapons are the worst options, are the ones that in orange. The one that is resisting the most against common weapons, if not surprising, is the Dread Knight with the Staffness Seize is making the difference. But also we can see that the Dread Knight is dropping when we go to special weapons, anti-tank or anti-infantry, heavy anti-infantry. So the cavalry warrior options are the ones that are giving the best resistance. And here I use the one and they have the Feel No Pain, so we can see that. And showing again, you see the ones that are resisting more here are the cultists and the plague zombies. It's showing here that when it goes to heavy weapons, to having more miniatures is better than having strongest or tougher miniatures. So it's the same reflected here, and again, if you see the difference between the cavalry warriors and Trueborn, is mainly driving because of the difference of equipment and the extra cost that they cost. So you have to be careful in Dark Eldar when you're investing a lot of points in a unit, because they are very easy to kill, and this is what is showing these numbers. So this is why the resistance is dropping, because they are as easy to kill as the cavalry warriors, and you are investing more points. Here just I'm showing the average of the tables that I shared before. So the resistance total is the average of the resistance against all the different weapons, and showing the same thing that I shared before. So the cavalry warriors are the ones that are showing better scores because you're losing less points per kill. And again, if we compare to units from other codex, we see that the only that are more resistant or they have better figures are the cultists and the plague zombies, because they are very cheap. So losing one cultist is nothing. Then the next ones are the cavalry warriors, and then we have a combination between, we can go with all the Chaos Space Marines of the Trueborn. What is, if we combine this with the shooting, what is telling us is the cavalry warriors is an option that is very cheap with a very good shooting, so meaning that you have a good resistance, because you losing a one cavalry warrior is nothing. It's only 8 points. So this is what is showing this. So they have better resistance than any elite troops, but they have almost the same shooting capacity, especially against infantry, than an elite troop. So this is what is good of the cavalry warriors. On the other side, on the Trueborn, they have a very strong shooting, in some cases strongest than the cavalry warriors, but a loss is much painful. And this is why the resistance is half of the cavalry warriors. And now it's time to talk a little bit about the witches and see if the points we pay for the close combat is worth it or not. So if you see first the resistance of the witches, and this is why I keep this table, is in parity as the Trueborn. Okay, so meaning that you lose a lot of points when you're losing witches. But in close combat, you can see here the numbers, they are much better than the Trueborn or the cavalry warriors. And we have to be fair, the broad brides are giving extra punch. Personally, I'm not fan of the broad brides. I think it's better to use standard witches, but here in the figures we can see that they give this extra attacks, is giving extra punch, and is making them much more efficient per point spent in close combat than the witches. Of course, the resistance is going down because you pay more points for them. But they are payback in the melee. So the witches are very good, but what is important is, are them better than other elite troops from other codexes? Here we have the comparison against the melee score of the witches compared to the units we were analyzing. So we see that the Terminators are better than witches in close combat. But all the other options that we have here, even the Dread Knight, have lower score than the witches. If we look the Purgation or we look the Strike Squad, the Great Knights are specialized all in close combat. If we look the Strike Squad, have a lower score than the witches. What that means that witches is a troop that is very strong in close combat. And here you have to go into detail if you want to see how I do this number. But I'm just I'm just simulating the witches, or calculating how many wounds the witches will cause against different units. And there are units from all the different codex, try to have more variety. This number can change, of course, always depending on the meta of your area. But it's giving a guidance, and for me it's good to know if the points I'm investing are well or not. And also we can see that the Broad Rides, they are quite strong. They can cause a lot of damage. They have a very good attack scoring, meaning that they can do quite damage. And then they have and the witches, you can see that they have a very good defense score, means that they will receive less damage than other units. If you see, so normally the attack is the wounds that you do, and the defense is the wounds that you will receive. So defense the lower is the better. We can see that the Terminators are the ones that have the strongest defense, together with the Dread Knight. But the Dread Knight have not the punch that the witches will have, because the witches will deliver a hell of attacks, and this is what is reflecting this. So what is important for the witches? The witches is a unit that is specialized in close combat, but is very weak in resisting any shooting or resisting any attack. So you have to keep them safe and launch them in close combat as soon as possible, where is the point that, or is the moment that they excel. Okay, and I think, and also after seeing these numbers, I think they still have a place on the Dark Eldar list. The point in the Dark Eldar, and this is a thing that I will explain more deep in the conclusions. I will let me finish, and then I will give my points on the conclusions of all this analysis. So the next point is assaulting vehicles, and here we see that Dark Eldar is struggling a lot in damaging vehicles with this type of units. We have to look other units. We have to look, if we want to damage vehicles, we have to look to the Talos, or we have to look to the Scourges, or we have to look to the Rivers, or maybe the Ravager. But is the weakest point of the Dark Eldar is damaging vehicles, and here we see in the assault they cannot do damage to vehicles almost compared to other units. The Terminators can do good damage to light or heavy vehicles, and here is hitting to the armor. When I say heavy, it's not hitting to the back armor, it's hitting to armor 13 or 14. So we can see that other codex have better options. Even the basic units can have some damage to the vehicles. Here, Chaos Space Marines only with the crack grenades on the Space Marines can do damage to light vehicles, not to the heavy. But normally we will consider almost all vehicles light in close combat because you are attacking armor 10. So remember, light means armor 10, 11, 12. Heavy means armor 13 or 14. There are very little vehicles that have armor 13 or 14 at the back. So, and we don't have, we have some, how it's called, these high-wire grenades, but, and this is why we have some ability to do some damage on the vehicles, but after losing the high-wire grenades in all the witches, as equipment for the witches, this is why it's dropping this number so far. So now we go to the conclusions. So first, conclusions. Let's go to the conclusions. So the first thing I have to say on the conclusion is that Cavalry Warriors and Trueborn are very strong in shooting. Okay, they have a very good score in shooting. The good thing is that the Trueborn are strongest in shooting than the Cavalry Warriors, but then you're dropping in resistance. The unit with blasters, it's strong against vehicles, but it's losing a lot of flexibility. So if you don't have any other way to kill vehicles, use the Trueborn with blasters. But I will recommend other options because you are accumulating a lot of points on miniatures that are very easy to kill. And maybe I will not recommend to have 4 blasters in a unit of 5. I will recommend to have 2 and try to divide the blasters in more units, have more flexibility, and then accumulate the shooting from different units into the same vehicle. The reason is Cavalry Warriors Trueborn are very easy to kill. It doesn't matter if you put them on a vehicle, they are easy to kill. So it's better that you have some wounds to start absorbing before losing the miniatures with the special weapon. Okay, and then the witches, I think, are still good in close combat. They have still do his job, but all the and here is the point: all the army. Well, if you go with Trueborn and you go with witches and broad whites and all these elite units, you are very depending on the alpha strike. If you do an alpha strike and you don't do good damage on your first hit, the returning firing can be devastating for you. And this is why the resistance is, and if you have seen my numbers, the resistance of these units, Trueborn, witches, and any elite unit will have the same problem. The resistance is very low, meaning that you don't have capacity to absorb fire. On the other side, if you are placing more Cavalry Warriors with less density of weapons, you have better ability to absorb enemy fire, because your resistance is high because the points invested per miniature is not that high. So, and this is one of the things that you have to be careful and you have to balance when building any army. So it's the density of points per miniature. So you want to have a good balance between efficiency and skills and weapon, but at the same time you don't want to accumulate too much points on units that doesn't have a good save. That is the case of the Dark Eldar, and this is why in some cases I don't use all the options per squad. For example, this is why and this is why sometimes I put more than needed. For example, Trueborn can be unit of 5, and then you can put 4 blasters. But maybe it's better to make a unit of 10 with 4 blasters. In that way, if somebody is shooting at you, the first wounds goes to Trueborn that doesn't have any special weapon. And on the other side, if you use Cavalry Warriors, that on top of that they are cheaper, 3 points cheaper than the Trueborn, then the loss of points when you start receiving wounds is much lower. So this is a thing that you have to be careful. So you have to balance the points per miniature and be careful that you are not start losing a lot of points each time that you have a loss. So this is all what I want to explain here. I think this is concluding my video at that point. So I just want, please give your opinion. I want to know what do you think about this analysis. If it's aligned of on what you were thinking, or you think that I missed something, or you don't like this, and please let me share your opinion. What do you think of all this analysis? Like if you like it, but what is for me is more interesting is that you give your opinion and you give your point of view of that. So if you're not subscribed, I will be very grateful if you subscribe. And thanks a lot for watching, and see you again later. Bye.